So it's September, and 4 years ago this month, we started this channel here in my backyard at this table with a video called Everything You Need to Know About an Edelbrock Carburetor in Under a Minute. We shot it on the run. We were trying to do a podcast at the time, and we were late to a podcast meeting in Nashville, and we kept trying to shoot this video over and over and over again, and I'd lose my way and forget what I was saying, and so we were in a rush, had to get this thing done. I was frustrated. I was like, oh, and we blew through it. It was like a minute-long video with like 7 edits, because the most I could do was spit out a sentence, and then we'd cut, and then have to spit out another sentence. We've come a long way since then. Well, I think we've come a long way since then. And we've done a lot of videos since then. And we've done a lot of carburetor videos since then. So, one of the common things, anytime we do anything carburetor related, there's always in the comments 2 camps, right? Now, it doesn't matter what the video is about. It could be adding a 1-inch spacer to a 750 Holly. Okay, right? That could be the video. But there'll be 2 camps in the comments. It's consistent. And one will be like, well, at least you didn't do it on a Quadra bug. It never would have worked. It would have been junk, like a Quadra junk, right? People are triggered by the Quadrajet. I don't get it. And then there's the other camp. And there's more of them. And like, you should have done that on a Quadrajet. It would have tripled the horsepower. You'd see the real magic of the Quadrajet. It's the greatest thing ever. It's the Quadrajet. They're my life, Quadrajets. People love these things, and they hate these things. So I figured, let's do something on the Quadrajet. It's a carburetor I actually happen to be extremely familiar with. As a mechanic in the 70s and the 80s, I worked on literally countless number of Quadrajets. They were on everything. It's one of the reasons I think they're so popular with people, is because everybody's kind of familiar with it, and you either love them, most people love them, some people hate them. I like them a lot, but I don't include them for performance. I don't include them in performance oriented. I know, right? So it's like, why do we even talk about it if you don't include it? Because it's probably the best regular passenger car or moderate performance carburetor ever produced. They have some shortcomings. So like I said, I know these things inside out and backwards. I've rebuilt, repaired, tuned, tweaked hundreds of them during the course of my life. I actually have one of these. I actually have one in service. I have one of these on my wrecker. Why? Because for that purpose, in that vehicle, that is the best carburetor there could possibly be, with its one universal shortcoming, and we're going to get to that in a minute. And that, we're going to talk about that, because you can't talk about that without talking about that. So, the Quadrajet, it was the first true production spread bore carburetor. General Motors pumped millions of these things into the world from 1967 until 1988, last year for regular production. The last regular production car was a 1988 Monte Carlo SS. I actually did a drag test on one for Cars Illustrated magazine. And even back then, this is almost 40 years ago, and we were talking about how iconic the Quadrajet was and how like we're going to miss the Quadrajet. So, and there's also like a kind of a conspiracy, not a conspiracy in a negative way at all, but there is an unusual thing that happened with these carburetors. We're going to get to that in a minute. So this was the first mass-produced spread bore carburetor, and if you're not familiar, I can't believe anybody would not be familiar with this. If you're not familiar, the idea is the primary barrels of the carburetor are tiny, right? Tiny. And this is what you're doing most of your driving on. Previous to this, almost all carburetors were just square bore. Primaries and secondaries were the same size. So with the Quadrajet, they went with a tiny primary, huge, comparatively, secondary. This did a couple of things. Fuel economy. It was a major increase in fuel economy over the standard AFB AVS style carburetor was in use at the time, or the Holley, the square bore carburetor. Because those tiny primaries, you get high velocity. High velocity means super efficiency and better gas mileage and throttle response. One of the things that they were after with these carburetors when they designed them was throttle response. Part of that you could see is like just in the linkage ratios. They have very tight linkage ratios, meaning that it doesn't take a lot of gas pedal to move the throttle a lot. This was something that was just engineered into the feel or the ergonomics of the General Motors cars of the era. Because of the small primaries and that big velocity through them, you get instant throttle response. Very snappy, feels very, you know, and that was good. The bad part about the Quadrajet, the Thermo-Quad, that, we're going to talk about that in a minute. The bad part about the Quadrajet, its major shortcoming, and the reason why I don't include it when we talk about like real performance builds, when we talk about anything other than, let's say, just a stock muscle car or a barely warmed over type of thing, why I exclude these, and why, like, for me, I have one on my wrecker, but that's the only place I would really consider using one. The main problem with these, and I don't know why why General Motors spec'd this thing and why Rochester built it this way, but it has a single, very small fuel bowl, and it's centrally located right here, right? So here's a fuel inlet, and here's a fuel bowl right underneath it, and that bowl has to feed all 4 barrels. It's bad, right? To use these carburetors effectively, your fuel delivery system has to be on its game. It's got to be like right there. You can't have any lag of fuel delivery, because after just a couple of seconds of wide open throttle, you run out of reserve, you run out of bowl, and you're almost exclusively running on what's coming in through the inlet. That's problem number 1 with these things, fuel starvation. The other big problem with them, and the reason for that, is the fact that because it has a centrally located fuel bowl, it can't dissipate heat. Heat soak became a major problem with these things. In fact, when they first brought these out in 1967, it was very common. People were complaining. There were major issues with cars stalling in traffic, and if you read the reports of the day, there were severe drivability issues with these carburetors, and I would say that they came this close to being shelved. But I believe the refiners, I believe General Motors and the gasoline refiners came to some sort of agreement, and they increased the amount of whatever chemical it was, whatever additive it was, they increased the amount of the anti-vapor, or the stuff in the gas that keeps it from vaporizing. They increased the amount of that, because after let's say 1968, 1969, you don't see the vapor lock problems with these cars anymore, and it was never an issue talked about through the early 70s, and when I came along in the middle to later 70s and into the 80s, there were never vapor lock issues with these cars. Never had a problem with them. So I believe that there was a change in the formulation of gas sometime around 1968 to accommodate General Motors' investment in these carburetors. Conspiracy? I don't know. It might or it might not be, but it is funny. And one of the bits of evidence of this situation is this thing right here, the Thermo-Quad. All right, so General Motors puts this out in 1967, and suddenly people who are buying brand new performance cars are having a problem. They're taking them to the track during the summer, they're hot lapping them, and they're flooding over. They're boiling over, they're vapor locking, they're getting a quarter way down the track and it's just running out of fuel because of that inability of this carburetor to dissipate heat from the fuel bowl. So for 1968, late 1968 and early 1969, Carter said, aha, we got a market here. We have a carburetor that's being installed on hundreds of thousands of cars, and it's not capable of holding on to, of dealing with the heat. It's not capable of, we'll build a Thermo-Quad, because that was the big thing. People in 1968 were talking about thermo, heat, the heat for the, so So that's why Carter said, we'll do a Thermoquad. Let's offer a bolt-on direct replacement for the Quadrajet, for the Rochester Quadrajet. And you can see, when you look at the bottom of these things, the footprints are absolutely identical. Right? Same bolt pattern, same throttle sizes. Before this was adopted by Chrysler, this was literally designed specifically to be a replacement for this. It wasn't until 1972 that Chrysler adopted this carburetor and started using it on their cars. That is the essential problem with the Quadrajet. That tiny bowl and its inability to dissipate heat. A couple of other small little quirks with them. Now, there are many generations of these things. This obviously is a pre-CCC, 1981 CCC. That's when they added the throttle position sensor and all that to these. So this is a pre-electronic one. One of the universal issues that these had, and still do, are these well plugs right here. When they drill the passages through the body of the carburetor, they fill these holes that they drilled with lead plugs, and those, they're called well plugs. And over time, heating and cooling cycles, they get loose, and you'll end up, it'll just drip gasoline into the engine. You'll know you've got this problem if you have anything with a Quadrajet on it. You'll know you have that problem is when the engine is shut off. Right, so you run your engine, get it hot, get it operating temperature, shut it off, and then after, let's say, 3 or 4 minutes, look down the choke, and if you see gasoline vapor pop, floating up, you see smoke, steam, gasoline steam, you know that it's dripping from the well plugs. And the fix with that is just simple. This one's already, I didn't do this, somebody else did this. It's just epoxy. I would say use JB Weld because that's all I've ever used, but obviously there's going to be 400 Quadrajet people out here watching this video, and every single one of them has this special mixture of epoxy that they use because it's the special, unique, perfect epoxy to use on a Quadrajet. So I'll leave that into the comments. If you have a better thing than JB Weld to fix these things with, go for it. Now, it's not to say that they're a dead issue performance-wise. There are certain racers, like for instance, stock and super stock racers, are forced to work with the Quadrajet. So they've got their tricks, they've got their things that they do. I have never hot rodded one of these carburetors. I don't even think I've ever actually changed drop rods or jets on one of these. I've always done just straight rebuilds. I haven't done anything, and also played with the opening rate of the secondaries. Boo! Right? That's the one that makes the noise. But other than that, I honestly can't recall ever actually hot rodding one of these things. But there are people out there who do. They run certain classes where this is the mandated carburetor. They've got to stick with the original factory carburetor it was born with, and they do all kinds of tricks. They have smaller floats that they stick in there made out of certain materials, and they're able to recontour the bowl to get a little bit bigger, because that is this carburetor's Achilles heel, that single bowl. So the difference between the Quadrajet and the Thermoquad is it's like obvious. You've got your tiny little fuel bowl here, and then here you got these two giant honking fuel bowls that have this phenolic resin that's just hanging out into the breeze. Like it's like obviously, like it's almost like when they designed this carburetor, they went like way overboard just to like showcase the shortcomings of the Quadrajet. Now, while Chrysler went to these carburetors in 1972, when Carter went out of business in the early 1980s, they switched over and started using the Quadrajet on their production cars. So if you've got a Chrysler product from, let's say, a 4-barrel Chrysler product from I don't even remember the years, like 1982, 1983, this is what you're going to find under the hood. And like I said, I've got one on my record. It gets good gas mileage. It vapor locks, but on occasion. But I deal with that. You feather it along, you get used to it, and it's right. So there you go. There's my review of the Quadrajet. I like them. I'm one of those people, like, I'm pro Quadrajet. But you guys are fanatics. I love the Quadrajet. My mother was a Quadrajet. I hope you got something out of that. I'll see you tomorrow.